heard the birds at the end of winter, when the sky turned rose. It was as though they'd left for spring. Maybe it was the cold. The night turns dark, though the clouds are clear inside. An eggshell blue, and the stars fall like silver dots. The man in the moon came home to light the hour, the starry night, when the weight of heaven presses on the heart, and not a song in the air but the song of the wind carrying radio waves and cables to the voice of a son far from his mother, and the voice of a wife far from her lover, when men are small and women fragile. On all the earth only the Atlantic is strong, where the dead slaves lie, and soul the sound of the seabirds in the hard road travelled by homosexual and heterosexual men. The grasp for a leaf falling sudden, and then dead, limp. The noise of batteries of football supporters, and the traffic of passing cars with flags flowing in the wind. The glass of time is always at the brim. Take a sip, but never more than dim drops of dew out of the spring. 6 seats for 6 drunks, 6 shops for 6 families, and the blowing of a car horn for 1 poor. Policemen on their bicycles are 6 feet 2 when they stand. In the urgency of progress, we all stand still. Send the women out to work, and gather news of opportunities abroad. At home there are children by the dozen, a business. Open kind hearts and sharp tongues, quiet smiles, the embrace of truths, but not truth, for the complexion is yellow, yellow sunlight, yellow warmth, and the yellow of fear. Have no fear, God is there and is infinite and good. Belief or disbelief, it makes no matter. The light is pure and all around and defies reason. Let go the urgency, the traffic of workers, the children at their chores, the business at your door, and embrace your own truth with the good, the infinite that is God, peopled by eternity, and molded to the shape of your soul. The design that matters more than your happiness, your spirit. That fulfillment comes after life, is a knowledge known in life to bring fulfillment, the good, the infinite, the whole. Rest your hands, lower your eyes, see shadow, reflection, raise your head, observe the canopy, breathe and smell the real dirt of the space you are in, and find within its fragrance the scent of a daffodil. The pure water of spring flows through all trees, can be cupped in all rusted palms. Life lives, embraces, soothes and startles. There is no evil but your own soul. Some people are so much richer than me, millionaires and multi-billionaires. Even a wage would be more. But I, by the things I have more. Dick Whittington bore his black skin through the gates of London, accompanied only by a stray cat, unknown and friendless. He marched to the heart of the city and curled up at the foot of a stone. Here he would make his home. The breeze on the streets blows out from the shops, like a gentle air, the whirl of the scissors shedding hair. Gingerbread kids and ice cream men, suits and slimmers, slip down the street with the breeze into the human pool. So, Mr. Whittington, how do you do? Do you do well? Well indeed, though may I touch you for a crust of bread, not begging but asking. And so it began, and now asks for bedding. I'm not your enemy, come friendly. Close your palm into my hand. Touch the tips of your toes to my toes. Look into my face and see my smile. Follow me a little way, a step or 2 or mile. The abode of kindness, a home for men who have strayed too close to Fagin, and their fine bedding donated by Slavic children, and spicy soup made by Asian ladies, and the sweet dough of Jamaican bread. There is always a space for one or many, and one more may lay his head, for you are the prince of this station, and the baron of this bread. My friend, lay your head here stilly and sleep, to rest and sup on steely hope, the dream of men. I spoke to men, and then they were injured, and I was distraught, for the ages when men laid here was civilization that cast its net over the smallest babe, and wed blind men to poets, painters to slaves, the lascivious to widowed brides, and the insane to men of ink. An injury that comes unspoken of, cold and drink, a subsidence to knavery. No more of the gentle breeze, but the cold thighs of horse. Lift up your spirits, you, come away with me into the town with singing. Dick Whittington and Cat replenished sought the oak tree, and there drew the strength of the acorn, the grace of the Lord. Thrice Lord Mayor of London, a carriage drew them across the stony streets to a house on a hill of London, the Lord Mayor's home. So how would you fare had you come here as solitary as him? Seek your Redeemer and open your lungs, charge your voice with pity, bellow humility and pride, and stride the human pool where the breezes blow. Nothing is infinite, neither time nor man, neither seas nor wind, neither dreams nor death, only waking. In a woman's arms you may find longing, whether you are man or woman, child or all three, or only spirit in the arms of an apparition. Like the poet on the page, that longing within or outside of time. Only you will know that you are alone, that no one holds you, that you are really real only when someone does, that you are blown on a sea against a death that even dream cannot resist, yet constantly waking as if from a dream to find you are alive as you were when a child, a waking that defines longing, a longing to be another, man, woman, lover, tyrant, soldier, sailor, beggar, thief. Your eyes, your hair, and your teeth, your soul, your will, your lust for life, your pulse, the throb of your sexuality, your you, your id. What does it mean? That you are in love, that you knew that nothing is infinite, only this waking to the possibility of love, that the child lets go the coward, and the man his cruelty, and the woman born again. You are new, you are one, you are waking. Embrace love, see it as a waking, a dream in which you are the reality. Where there is doubt, there is hope, and where there is hope, there is heaven. In heaven, time dissolves, and God is infinite. Okay, this canvas, painted at Villa Carlotta in the July of 2014. I'll start with the title. I call it Leno, Scene from Lake Como. This is the town of Leno along the coast. Leno is the town my hotel is in, and it's 10 minutes by boat along the coast from Villa Carlotta. The lake is something very magical. It has like a sort of breath, where when you look at it you can see it breathing. It has the appearance of being cerulean blue. When you get close and sit and watch it for an hour, it changes colour constantly. It gives off so much light that when I sat down to paint it, I painted it gold, and I think it's a suitable colour. The land again is breathing and has so much colour, greens and blues and earth colours, and the way the houses of the villages and towns along the coast of the lake inhabit the landscape. They seem perfectly placed and so much a part of nature as to be nature. And I've tried to capture that integration between the man-made and the environment in the picture, where they're one and the same. The presence of civilization is transparent here because nature is really so dominant. But I think the land here is so beautiful. It's crying out for man to be here, just to witness it, to say that this is made and it's beautiful. It's God's creation. In my painting I have, this is the one side of the lake, and the lake with all its movement, its current, its surface, its giving of light, its colour, its depth. There's a boat here which I've tried to do delicately to give the impression of something floating and riding the current, chopping through the water. There's this grey that follows around the gold, and this is the coast, the land, and above it are the buildings. I've used these lovely pinks and Naples yellow for the buildings, and I think those are the colours you see. The roofs are red, the buildings have this yellow stone. It's just such a beautiful place. I've been to many places, to Cyprus and to parts of France, to Cannes, to Cornwall, but I think this is the most beautiful place I've ever been. Then you have these green hills, and this is very difficult green to mix. You have to try very hard to get this green. It's not a direct green, it's very much grey, but it gives a flavour of what you see in the hills. And there's lots of blue, of course, there's blue everywhere. The sky is permanently blue, the water looks blue, but the hills also give off a blue light. It's a strange thing, but even though they're covered in green trees, from a distance they look very blue, which is what you see in many classical paintings. Leonardo and Claude Lorraine, these artists invariably paint blue hills in the distance. Then there's a line here of charcoal. You can just barely see it. This is describing the apex of the hills. And then there's a grey area, but grey with so much colour. I think grey is such an essential part of colour. I think grey and pink, red and amber, violet, these are colours which suggest other things. The primary colours are red, blue, yellow, green, but these secondary colours and the greys really give breath and life to pictures. And if you can get the mix of the dark muddy mass with the bright colourful definition, then it creates something magical which is not, it's not pictorial photographic representation, it's more the spirit of what we see and what we inhabit. And I think, I would like to think when people look at the painting that they could look and endlessly. They won't just look and see a picture, but they want to look at each individual mark and line and just be seduced by the picture and fall into it and fall in love with it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Osita.
You're welcome.
Okay.
This painting represents the garden of the Villa Carlotta with a view of Lake Como and the opposite bank of the lake, which I think is Bellagio. The garden is seen here on the left. It has many trees, lots of herbage, lots of live birds and butterflies, dragonflies. It has people, a lady here who is nearest to us, and it's on different levels because the garden actually rises. You have to climb steps quite often to get to each next level of the garden. There are about 3 layers. And I've tried to indicate that in the painting. Not obviously, but I've built up the image in layers. And so behind each layer there's another image. And it gives a sense of space, of volume. And in that volume is the distance where there may be something else. The workers here, the gardeners, travel around in little minivans, and I've painted one here. There are places to sit, there's lots of space, always a lovely view. It's a lovely place to relax, and I try to indicate somebody relaxing here. Just enjoying the view. And the lake is more abstract. The whole picture is abstract, but it represents the garden and the lake. The lake has the agitated brush strokes, these lovely blues, many blues, as many blues as possible, chopping into each other. And the lake and the hill are one in this picture. It's difficult to distinguish them. And I think there is a sense of, when you look into the distance, of everything being continuous, of there not being separate things. The only thing that breaks up the landscape and creates points, I think, are the man-made structures, the houses mostly, and it's in these houses which I've painted on the top of the hill that you get a sense of perspective or proportion. I have a boat here. It could be a pleasure cruiser. It could be a taxi boat. It could be the bus, which I have taken, the bus on the lake. And this picture requires attention, I think. It requires somebody to be kind to it. and to see its graces. There are lots of lovely nuances, like this green hedge here, or the yellow ground underneath the tyres of the van. There are things, the road from Leno, it's the route through the foot of the hills from village to village along Lake Como. This golden ochre is the road. I've painted the lake in black here. I think I've used black because in a way it defines light, it holds all the colour, and it's called the Queen of Colours, black. I think it's a good colour for the lake because it demonstrates its hold over the landscape. Wherever you are, the lake seems to absorb so much energy, and I've tried to capture that. There are always two sides to the lake. It's not like a sea, you can always see to the other side. So there's a limit to the water's edge, and then there's land or houses, something. And so I've put this here to indicate the other seashore, and a little boat here, a sailing boat, maybe for pleasure, maybe fishermen, maybe for transport, maybe somebody lives on that boat. Then above the road are the mountains, the hills, these beautiful hills in blue with their pastures and their tracks, their passageways, just arching up to the sky, and I've given the sky colour, gold and pink, just indicate its grandeur and its luxury. I think nature here is very luxurious, there's so much of it, and it's for no practical purpose. They're not farms. They haven't been civilized, it's just hills covered in trees and greenery and birds and plants. Everything is as the earth has made it. And I think this picture has a character of its own. It's not so much that I've painted a picture, it's more just that I've gone through the process of applying paint and colour and let the forms take their place, take shape. These sort of very immediate forms, this expanse here, 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 here. Really the only detail is the boat. But if you look, there is a picture there, and I think for me it captures what I've experienced being here, moving between village and village, and walking the green way, and being on the narrow roads where there's always a vertical hill beside you, looking in any direction, and there's always a fixed point in the distance, the top of a hill or a line of buildings. And always the lake is incredible colour, it's the rippling surface, just that liquid mass. And the weather here is humid, and there's a haze in the air. When you look, the air is hazy with humidity, and one is always thirsty here, you always want to drink liquid. And I've tried to capture that haze in the picture, and that idea of a thirsty landscape, the presence of water. And that's my picture. This video is set in the gardens of the Villa Carlotta. I've tried to place some people on the canvas so as to show them, as I have experienced the visitors here, as artists in residence. People come from all over the world, all over Europe, Australia, America. They speak different languages. I think they have in common certain tastes or interests, maybe different backgrounds, but lots of couples and people with children, many women. The season now is the end of July. The weather is good here. People dress for the season, and so they appear a certain way. It's Lake Como, people dress quite chicly, smart clothes, but casual. And I think in the garden they're relaxed because there's just so many variety of plant and flower. The passages turn in different directions, they go uphill, there are different levels, there are different heights of bush and tree and walls. And I've tried to capture all of this with these angular lines, sort of stroked lines and blocks of colour, creating spaces and levels, turnings. It's a two-dimensional canvas, but I've tried to create a three-dimensional space. There are only 4 figures. There's this woman who's smiling and looks to be enjoying herself and is very casual and wears a pretty dress, and there's a girl here in a purple skirt who fades from view, which is partly to give the impression of a public space in which people are close by you, but they're sort of faceless. You notice them, but you're not too involved. They're just passing, they're just sharing the space. It's not very personal. There's this boy who looks very strong and he seems to know exactly where he is or who he is, but he raises his arm in an expression maybe of surprise or anxiety, or maybe he's hailing somebody. And then this is a bit more mysterious. This woman who is very strong and powerful, very athletic, very physical, naked woman, and it's not clear what her purpose is. It's the mystery in the painting, this powerful woman, what she represents. There's a lot of variance of tones, so there's lots of different types of yellows. And there's even a glimpse of the lake here with the blue hills going over. There's a rose bush here, red and green. I would say I really enjoyed making this painting. It was a pleasure to create it and to see it develop. And now it's finished, I like it. There's lots of texture, there's abstract, and there's representation, figuration. It's not a very serious painting, it's just the pleasure of it. It looks like a garden, and it has some people enjoying themselves, and this powerful woman. Oh. With this painting I call the Hotel Garden, It's based vaguely on the garden of the Hotel Griffo, where I'm staying in Leno, which is a village along the coast of Lake Como, close to Tremezzo. It's a very beautiful and peaceful place. There's a mountain stream close by the hotel at night. I can hear the water rushing. There are hills all around. There's a beautiful view of the lake from the other side of the hotel. It's close to the water's edge and it's surrounded by flowers and bushes. People park their cars outside the hotel and along the road. It's a very unusual place in the sense that there are few houses and it's isolated from other places. You have to walk or drive to get to other places. Everything is at least 10, 15, 20 minutes away in either direction, and to get to any main centre you have to travel much longer, and so it's almost like an oasis, just an isolated spot of civilization. And the first thing that strikes you about it, the hotel and the street and the gardens, is the colour, the sound of the water, sometimes traffic, sometimes voices, birds, insects, people on the lake, these beautiful sounds, church bells, and then the colours of nature, the hills, the sky, the stones. There's many interesting stones there with lovely textures and shape. The colour of the buildings, in particular the way they've been painted and the way the paint has dried off the buildings over years, leaving them stained with just a little colour, sometimes Naples yellow, sometimes Chinese orange. The smells of the place, everything is vibrant, the air is fresh. And then people who are locals, Italian people, have their way of life, which is very regular. There's a lot of continuity, maybe monotony, maybe just a way of life that has been like that for 100 years, perhaps, I don't know. So you feel like it was like this before and it will be like this after. There's a sense of time and a sense of place. And here I've tried to portray in colour and shape and texture and representation and line the possibilities of a place. So it's a very simple painting. There's a tree which describes both the ground and the air and shades the car, which is the connection between one place and another. In this time, the product of man, a means of transport, a modern carriage or horse, car, boat, train, is all the same. And the car sits in blue, which could be water, so it could be a boat. And then the woman carrying either a cot or a bag, and the ground and the air and the light, the warmth and the coolness at the same time. I've tried to breathe life into just time spent in a peaceful setting. I call this painting the Pink Dragons. You can see the dragons here, 3 dragons. They come out of the hills, almost as though they were formed out of the rock. So much atmosphere that I think I have a vision of the dragons. After being here a few days, a week, when I was sleeping or just resting, I closed my eyes and I could see the dragons coming out of the hills, looking over the lake, in a row or a line of them, just their necks and bodies and heads. They're not really threatening anybody, but they're part of the mythology, I think. Though I don't know this for a fact, it's just something I've imagined. Here you see the lake. Here the sky with its atmosphere, there's always thunder here. The rolling clouds, the big expanses of light. And then the hills, it's very simple with light. And different tones, greys, umbers, reds and blues, greens, yellows, sienna. Dragons are pink. You see their mouths and the eyes, their heads. It's a very simple painting, really. There are some structures, there are different textures, the texture changes as you go from one part to another as you come down. It's a very earthy painting with earthy colours, and it's sort of soulful, I would say. And that's it.
Stop.
This painting is called Italian Nude. It's the last of the 7 paintings I have made at the Villa Carlotta. The other 6 are 3 of gardens and 3 of the hills and lakes, but this one is figurative. It's a nude of a woman in a pose of self-love in a warm sort of Mediterranean setting. Her body is dark brown by the sun. It's very intimate and private, but at the same time it's open, the yellow and the way she's lying. I think even though it's of a person, in her skin I've captured some of the warmth and texture and colour of this part of Italy. I think this is a very natural woman, very sophisticated, and it does come of my experience over the past week and a half or 2 weeks in Como, the heat, the closeness of people, the intensity of the environment and of the people and of being here, the bright light, the shadow, the proximity of life, other life and your own life, and at the same time my solitude here. I don't know anybody here really, and I don't speak the language. I spend much time in contemplation, looking at things, reading, and maybe waiting as well. There's a sense of imminence, of impatience, and at the same time patience, a desire, lust, of a length of time rather than the moment. Not the moment, but the pause in a length of time, that there's a sense of there being another person in this painting. It's like in a Picasso or a Matisse where there's a model and it's the model and artist, or a lover, or just a fantasy. There was no model for this image. It comes from my mind, from my imagination, and seems very real to me. And I think the image is real. It has a life of its own now, it's been created. And I can see that it's real by this print I've taken from it, which I'm going to keep, which is very delicate and very beautiful. Okay.